want to introduce the speaker for today, and I'm going to be butchering the last name badly.
I blame my father.
So, Bruce Greenhalgh, how did I do?
Pretty good. Pretty
Uh,
good.
Take us along with your topic, and please, everybody, keep yourself muted. The routine is going to be the same. Bruce will talk. We will break. We'll break out and come back and talk. And at the end, perhaps we want to make sure to remind you about the upcoming events, the winter conference at the end of January and upcoming summer school as well. Thank you, Bruce, and thank you, everybody. Bruce, take it from here.
Okay. There we go. There we go. It's funny that when you think you started and you haven't. No worries. Right. Um, the title gives a lot away. What's love got to do with it? And I thought, as a number of you know, I've got quite a bit of a background in mindfulness. So I would start a little bit differently in that I'm going to invite you. It's always a choice whether you close your eyes or not. If you prefer not to look down. But I'd like you, as you close your eyes, to place one hand, whichever you prefer, above the heart on the chest, and to notice the breathing. And what I'm hoping is going to happen is that you start to feel the warmth from your hand through the chest to the heart. And as the breath comes in and out, I'd like you to bring love towards yourself. And if you want to say something quietly to yourself, wishing you love, but also then to bring to mind those that are significant in your life, those that you wish to share those feelings of love with. And then to widen that out to perhaps those on the call, the community that we are, and then to widen it beyond that to whoever you wish, the nations, people, sentient beings, Adlerians, past and present. And I'm just going to go quiet just for a little bit, just to allow that feeling to arise. Okay, so it's up to you whether you want to close your eyes. I do have some slides. Feel free as you wish. That's it. Good. It's interesting that my clicker wasn't working. So, what if our unique Adlerian final fictional goal is underpinned by a universal concept of pure love? Hold that thought in your mind for a moment. And then, what if Gemeinschaftsgefühl, bear with me a sec because I just lost slides. There we go. What if Gemeinschaftsgefühl is the optimum way to achieve this pure love by providing a guide on how to love in the best interests of the interest of ourselves and others? And then, and the tasks of life are opportunities for us to proactively love. So that's what I'm planning to do today, is just to look at the synchronicity between Gemeinschaftsgefühl and love. Adler said we're all striving for perfection. And is there anything more perfect than pure love? Adler proposed that the final fictional goal is striving towards the development of perfection for the benefit of the whole of mankind. And that's a massive statement, isn't it? Because the whole of mankind, you can't actually reach that destination, but we are striving towards it. And if we think in terms of evolution, perhaps it doesn't seem so strange. So if we're looking at trying to perfect ourselves and perfect mankind, and we understand that Gemeinschaftgefühl is the way, I thought it might be useful just to look at that and look at it a bit more closely. And I'm going to quote a couple of times from Ansbacher in a paper he wrote in '68. I'm not going to keep referring to it in terms of the reference, but a lot of the references come from that. So the final fictional goal could be thought of as if mankind had reached that goal, okay? As if he had. So when we look at Gemeinschaftsgefühl, Ansbacher referred to the fact that there are two aspects to this. And one is the process and the other is the object. Process being the means we strive towards Gemeinschaftsgefühl, and object being the destination. But bear in mind, we can't reach the destination. We know that term, final fictional goal. And Ansbacher then talked about the fact that as we go towards this process, as we process Gemeinschaftsgefühl, there are three developmental steps. An aptitude towards Gemeinschaftsgefühl, an ability, and an attitude in which we use to measure or to determine how we deploy. So it's so that we can wisely deploy this Gemeinschaftsgefühl. And as we know, that lovely phrase, acting in the best interests. With the object, that was quite interesting because the object, and I'll read this, I know you can read it, but I think sometimes it helps to have it auditory as well. It touches not only members of the individual's own family, but also his clan, his nation, and finally the whole of humanity. And it's possible that it may extend, and this is important from where I'm coming from, beyond these boundaries and express itself towards animals, plants, lifeless objects, or finally towards the whole cosmos. So this is massive. We're talking about holism on a much grander scale than the indivisible nature of a person. I'm going to just let Ellen in. See, she's there was someone else coming in, so I just added her. And he also talked about the fact that it was subspecies aeternitis. I'm not sure how many of you are up on your Latin, but it's everlasting. It's an eternal concept. It's like when we look back 7 generations, where was the planet then, and where will it be in 7 generations' time? So when we look at Gemeinschaftsgefühl that way, this is quite something. But it's as if that everlasting nature was as if mankind had reached the goal of perfection. So we really are striving for something pretty massive here, pretty massive. They also talked, Ansbacher and Adler, about it being innate. A colleague of Adler's, known as Fuchmuller, forgive me if I'm messing up the German here, explaining the development of Adler's concept Gemeinschaftsgefühl, described it as a means of a mentally healthy direction for the innate striving for perfection. And it's that innate that I find quite interesting. I've had a bit of a challenge with this for me, right? Because if I just read a quote, for Adler, described Gemeinschaftsgefühl as when it's talking about innate, it means, sorry, no, what's that? It's said that he later modified, first he said it was innate, then he modified it to say social feeling is not inborn, but it's an innate potential which has to be consciously developed. For me, if you bear with me on this and see Gemeinschaftsgefühl as a seed, right? And then accepting then that as we try and perfect it, we need to water it. But we're watering something that's there. So innate and a potential, was the Gemeinschaftsgefühl not there in the beginning? And just hold on to that word innate, because for me, it's going to become important as we come back to that. So Ansbacher talked about we do need to consciously develop it. And I do agree, but we've got to develop something that's there. It doesn't come from nothing, does it? So we're then talking now about self-actualizing here. If I read that again, Ansbacher extended the objects of social interest to virtually mean the same as self-actualizing or growth motivation. So we need to keep self-actualizing. And Ansbacher in his paper very helpfully did a table where he compared Maslow's work which is often referred to as the hierarchy of needs, and Adler's perspective of people striving with well-developed social interest. And I love this table. And I'll be honest with you, I have edited down because it was quite large and I didn't want you to get caught up with it on the screen. But there was the self and that feeling, and I'm going to go down the Adlerian perspective rather than Maslow, the feelings of wealth and value and courage and optimism. And you can just think about yourself in relation to Gemeinschaftsgefühl and these levels, question mark, are they levels? Opinion of others, so getting the independence of the opinion of others, so finding your own skin, so to speak, finding yourself, overcoming common issues as opposed to private logic. And then where I think a lot of us reach is where we talk a lot about democracy and equality and cooperative feelings with fellow man. But look at what he then went on to say. He talks about the love of mankind. I mean, love starting to creep in here, okay? The love of mankind. And then harmony with the universe. I mean, I don't remember many people when I was doing my training talking about harmony with the universe, but there it is. Adler and Maslow both talking about this. And these are quite significant statements because harmony with the universe is a very tall order. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm struggling with loving all of mankind. I mean, we don't have to go far beyond the news to look at the struggle we would have with loving all of mankind. But with harmony of the universe, we're talking about being at one with everything. And this is described by many traditions and philosophers as pure love. Pure love. Okay. So I thought I'd look at love. And I've done a bit of research for this. And I basically kind of ran out of time because there are so many writings. So I thought I'd hone in on the Greeks. Everyone's, I think, heard of Plato and Aristotle, and they've done quite a little bit on this. But there's been a lot of others since. And they divided, or the Greeks seem to have found 8 words for love, but I've honed in on 3. Eros is the first one. And this is what I think a lot of us feel, that love for someone else, that desire, attraction, the desire, the drive towards beauty, etc. And then philia, in terms of friendship, affection, we think of this with family, reciprocal goodwill. But the one I want to focus in on is agape, unconditional self-giving love, willing for the good of the other, as many people have described it. And that's starting to smack again of Gemeinschaftsgefühl for me. Yeah. And a lot of writers on agape have described it as not subsuming eros and philia, but purifying it. So you can have that desire, that longing, that love for someone, and also that love for friendship. But agape purifies it. Hence we get that pure love back. Contemporary writers such as Bell Hooks took the work of Scott Peck, who wrote The Road Less Traveled, and tried to define love. And I'll read that. The will to extend oneself for the purpose of nurturing one's own or another's spiritual growth, where spiritual means the love of the heart, the body, and the mind and the spirit. Is that not also Gemeinschaftsgefühl? And then let's look at what Adler said on this. Through Gemeinschaftsgefühl, in its rich differentiations, parental love, filial love, sexual love, love of one's country, love of nature, art, science, love of mankind. Ansbacher said that Adler subsumed under social interest explicitly all the various forms of love. Explicitly. And I want to just take someone from outside of the Adlerian discipline. This is from the Advaita Vedanta tradition. This is Sri Shantananda Swasti. Everyone has pure love within their nature. And that's why I'm interested in the innate. So pure love is within us all. And like Gemeinschaftsgefühl, tended and watered, can actually be shared and spread like we would with Gemeinschaftsgefühl. So in summary, where I've reached, or where you've reached, we are all striving for an imagined ideal of perfection. And the healthiest way to strive is with Gemeinschaftsgefühl. I think we're all agreeing on those. Adler subsumes all forms of love within Gemeinschaftsgefühl, or does he, and this is my suggestion, perhaps Gemeinschaftsgefühl is subsumed within pure love. And the reason I say that is that many traditions from Advaita Vedanta, Buddhism, Sufism, Christianity, and others see pure unconditional love as something real and fundamental in the universe. Remember this? Harmony in the universe. And even some modern thinkers, like certain physicists and philosophers, describe, and I quote, love as a basic force that helps life evolve and move towards greater unity. In this view, love isn't just a feeling, it's part of the very structure of existence. So where I started with this in terms of what I was going to suggest is that we then, oh yeah, and we all have potential, I've said this, to develop and act with Gemeinschaftsgefühl and with pure love. So I said what we do is look at, and this, I'm just going to give you a little pointer. We're heading, not yet, quite yet, because I've got to just cover a few and give you some suggestions, how love as well as Gemeinschaftsgefühl can be expressed through the 5 tasks of life. And I know that there's a debate about 3 plus 2, so just bear with me on that. But it suited my purpose today to look at it from the 5 tasks. And you'll see one in a moment as I look at particularly the self task. So I want to suggest that the self is a creative force, and that does align with what Adler said. And Mansagar and Dreikers did talk about this quite eloquently. Our lifestyle is our creative way of being, not something separate from us, not something separate from us. Adler taught that holism extends beyond the individual to the entire cosmos, as I've shown you earlier, reflecting the unity of everything. And in this view, there is no real separation. We share a common consciousness and a shared access to pure, ever-present love. So we have it within us and we share it with all. So some potential self-actualizing actions weaving in love is to find your true self. And the suggestion is it's consciousness and awareness in all. And once you find that in you, you'll see it in others, and it can be found in being in the present. Love yourself. I know we have a lot of trouble with this with clients, but also in my experience amongst ourselves. Once you love yourself, you can love all. You are complete and enough. You don't need another. You will no longer be or feel lonely. It takes courage to be free and comfortable with aloneness. And give love freely. Let it flow or overflow out of you. You are merely love's conduit. It's uncontainable. It's a gift for us, so gift it to others. Allow love to unfold its own way. Love is free from attachment. And I've got a little metaphor to share with you. And it goes like this. There was a quarrel between a pond and a river. And the pond addressed the river, "O river, you are very foolish to give all your water and wealth to the ocean. Do not squander it thus. The ocean is ungrateful and does not need it. If you go on pouring into the ocean your accumulated treasures, it will remain as salty and bitter as it is today. Keep all your treasures with you." But the river was worldly wise and said, after hearing this, it replied, "No." The river went on working, pouring into the oceans millions of gallons of water every day. And the miserly pond became dry in 3 or 4 months, and it became putrid, stagnant, and full of festering filth. But the river remained fresh and pure. Why did it do so? Its perennial springs did not dry up because silently and slowly water was taken from the surface of the ocean to replenish the fountainheads of the river. Monsoons and trade winds, invisibly, silently, and slowly carried water from the ocean and kept the river source ever fresh. So don't hold on to love. Continuously give, and to all, it will come back to you. And then in tune with the infinite, the secret. Oh no, I'm going to go on to spirituality, so you'll be pleased to hear. So spirituality. I love the fact that again, this was Mansagar and Newbar. I know I'm not pronouncing that right. They talk about ultimate meaning making. And again, I've got another one I want to read to you. This is from Ralph Waldo Tyne, because I think it explains from a spirituality perspective what love is about. Not to love is not to live, or it is to live a living death. The life that goes out in love to all is the life that is full and rich and continuously expanding in beauty and in power. Such is the life that becomes ever more inclusive and hence larger in its scope and influence. The larger the man or the woman, the more inclusive they are in their love and their friendships. The smaller the man or woman, the more dwarfed and dwindling their natures, the more they pride themselves upon their exclusiveness. Anyone, a fool or an idiot, can be exclusive. It comes easy. It takes and it signifies a larger nature to be universal, to be inclusive. Remember, others implying, suggesting, advocating we become universal. Only the man or the woman of a small personal, self-centered, self-seeking nature is exclusive. The man or the woman of a large, royal, unself-centered nature never is. The small nature is the one that continuously strives for effect. The larger nature never does. The one goes here and there in order to gain recognition, in order to attach himself to the world. The other stays at home and draws the world to him. The one loves merely himself, the other loves all the world, but in his larger love for all the world, he finds himself included. So ultimate meaning making, the concept of lifestyle and Gemeinschaftsgefühl include the notion of the self in relation to the universe. And it starts with individuality and ends with universality. It's the proof that life is meaningful. So when we can contribute love and Gemeinschaftsgefühl, we live life fully. So here's some suggestions. Identify your talent. Doesn't matter if it's just yours. Doesn't matter if others have it. Identify yours, grow it, develop it, share it, flow with it. Seek true knowledge. The wiser we become, the better able we are to use our abilities and to love wisely and with Gemeinschaftsgefühl. We need to see the whole of creation as family. We wish to impart love to all. Big ask. Okay. On to the social task. For the sake of clarity, Adler divided all the problems of life into three parts. And so it was for clarity that he did this. I think sometimes we get a little bit too caught up in these tasks, right? The problems of behavior towards others, problems of occupation, and problems of love. So it's for all, yeah? And the first category, the problem of social relations, is, of course, the superordinated one, according to Ansbach. So love is the motive force behind all the processes at work in the world to sustain it. It could never be sustained without love. In the case of human life, examples are, and this is why I'm using this quote, love of parents, love of brothers, love of friends and colleagues. Even the behavior of insects and moths seems to be based on some form of love. So much so that the ultimate cause of hostility is also love, because hostility springs up when love is hindered. Thus, a duality of love and hostility prevails everywhere. If we want a thing we love, if we do not get it, we turn hostile. So, pure love or true love is a love free from the above duality. It's when we see each other as unity, as one. Here's one more, and this is from the Upanishads. It's not for the sake of the self that he is loved, but for the sake of the self within that he is loved. It's not for the sake of the wife that she is loved, but for the sake of the self within that she is loved. Remember this one unity. It's not for the sake of the sons or daughters they are loved, but for the sake of the self within that they are loved. It's not for the sake of the community itself that it is loved, but for the sake of the self within that it is loved. It's not for the sake of all creatures that they are loved, but for the sake of the self within that they are loved. No man is born hating another person. People must learn to hate. And if they can learn to hate, they can be taught to love. For love comes naturally to the human heart, more naturally than its opposite. So, some suggestions. Again, another tough one. Stop limiting love to a small circle. Start to widen the circle. I've been looking at this one painfully over the last few weeks. Little steps is my suggestion. All right. Move beyond the idea of the other. There is only one shared experience. If you're interested in more on that, Martin Buber, I, thou. Yeah. And then love thy neighbor like thyself. This was not a recommendation. It was an instruction. I'll read that again because that's a scary one. Love thy neighbor like thyself, hence why we have to love ourselves. And it was not a recommendation. We don't choose. It's an instruction. It doesn't say some neighbors. Yeah. Last two, okay. Occupation. I think we know this one well. Adler would say that work is an expression of Gemeinschaftsgefühl, the desire to contribute to the community. In this sense, work is more than labor, it's contribution. And so the contribution is a form of love for humanity. And then Cole Hill Gibran from the Prophet, work is love made visible. So work is one of the primary ways we show up. And I'll start again. When work is done with care, attention, craftsmanship, generosity, responsibility, it becomes a form of love. And work reveals our values, because otherwise our values are inside. So we express them. If you value beauty, you create beautiful work. If you value justice, you work fairly. If you value compassion, you work in the service of others. If you value excellence, you work with mastery. Last one, the toughie, at least in my experience. Adler saw love and intimacy as one of the core life tasks that every human must face. To succeed in this task, a person must be able to give and receive love, cooperate as an equal partner, and develop the courage that is required for deep emotional connectedness. Now, there's been a little bit of a misunderstanding, I think, on this one. That some modern summaries of Adler's work describe this task as, and I quote, because I've found this a couple of times, the need to know that one is loved and one can return the loving. This is a misunderstanding. Love is not a trade. True love is given without any expectation of return. And that's tough. Okay. So for Adler, love is the courageous cooperation of equals, and the intimacy task is the highest expression of Gemeinschaftsgefühl. I've been asked to put this one back up. So there you go for whoever asked. If you want, I'll read it again whilst if you were making notes or taking a photo. If you value beauty, you create beautiful work. If you value justice, you work fairly. If you value compassion, you work in service of others. If you value excellence, you work with mastery. For Adler, love is the courageous cooperation of equals, and the intimacy task is the highest expression of Gemeinschaftsgefühl. So some suggestions. These are tough too. Right, do unto others how we would have others do unto ourselves. So train ourselves or yourself to be reciprocal. A work in progress on that one. Acceptance. Accept others as individuals, accept difference. Do not try to change them. How often have we tried to change the partner in our lives? And act for the welfare of the other. So back to Gemeinschaftsgefühl again, to practice love is to act in the best interest of the other. Okay, so I'm now going to move into the breakout groups, but I'm just going to read these and then set the scene. And we believe we're going to be dividing you into groups of 5 and 6. So the 2 questions: what is your purpose? What meaning are you making of this one beautiful, precious life that we have? And then what action could you start doing to enhance your Gemeinschaftsgefühl and or loving? I don't mind how if you want to interchange them. So it's enough of me rabbiting. It's over to you guys. Marina, I'm hoping you're there and able to divide the
Yep,
groups up. Yeah.
I'm there. Yeah, so just take a look at the questions first because you will not see those. Once you're in a group, there will be groups of approximately 5, and you will have 20 minutes. So it is half an hour now, half past hour, so 20 minutes from now, the groups will close. And the groups are getting to be created right now.